this is one of those movies that you could pause it at any moment in the movie and it is a painting. Like everything is perfectly framed, artistically put together. Literally any moment in this movie you could screenshot and post as like a this is what was in, like this is what this movie is about.
Down, and we are back. Welcome back to the Movie Dads podcast. We're your hosts. I'm Howie.
Kyle.
That is Kyle. We are back from holiday break. It's just a normal episode. No more Christmas music bringing you into the episode. No more Christmas movies. Not that anybody watched the last episode anyway. So
yeah, we didn't have. I noticed that. Well,
But,
I feel like if we ever get off schedule, then it feels like our YouTube crushes our viewership.
It's wild though. Every episode that people don't watch, they listen to, and the episodes that people watch a lot, they don't listen to. So we have the same audience. People just are listening to it in the car instead or something. I don't know. It is.
That's interesting.
That is so interesting. I know, and we don't have a ton of downloads, but like Klaus not a lot of people watched it, but there were like 72 downloads last week. And I was like, okay.
It's so random. Love it. Have you, I mean, maybe I shouldn't say this since I want people to download ours, but do you ever download any podcasts? Like when you listen, do you ever like download them?
No, I stream them all like on.
I mean,
does it count? It has to count though, right? I mean,
I don't know. I have
towards your download total. I mean,
I don't know how it keeps track.
I listen to some on Spotify. I listen to some on Apple, but that's it. I mean, I've never listened to one on Audible, but that's anyway. If you're watching us on YouTube, please click the like and subscribe, and make sure you click that bell so you get notifications when new episodes come out, which is Wednesdays typically. The holidays a little different, and if you're not watching us on YouTube, you can find us on many podcast networks to listen to us, such as Apple, Spotify, Audible, iHeartRadio, among many others. You can also see some of our short clips and videos on social media at Movie Dads Pod, on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. We're Movie Dads. We've got movie kids. Christmas was great. Winter break is over. 2 weeks that feels like a billion years. Like 8:30 rolled around. And I'm like, you get to go to bed soon, Des.
I thought that all of them were going back to school today.
Yeah,
I was getting everybody ready. My wife was like, Grayson's isn't till tomorrow. I'm like, oh my God. Fine.
Yeah, it's like a teacher training day. So my wife works for the schools, right? So she had to work today. She was back to work, and she's like, "Yep, 6 kids got dropped off by their dads today." And I was like, "Why is it got to be the dad? Why is it got to be the dads?" And she's like, "It just was." And I said, "That checks out."
Not yesterday, but what there were our kids' schools have the most random days off out of nowhere for the weirdest things that we didn't have when I was growing up. And there was a day that we missed the bus because we were hella late, and or at least I thought we missed the bus. So it was just like, all right, whatever, I'll run you to school. So I run Grayson to school. I fucking pull up, watch him run up to the door, and I almost pulled away, but like my dad and me was like, wait till he goes in. So I sat there for an extra second, and I was like, all right, are you going to go in, dude? He runs back over. I'm like, what did you forget? The people at the intercom said there's no school today. And I'm like, you're lying. No, there was no school. So I was like, oh, Jesus, okay.
That's amazing. Like, it didn't seem like it was less busy? Or
no,
you were just
the whole parking lot was full. So that's why I didn't even like pick up on it.
But not with children.
Yeah, there's no children, but that's usually how it is when you do a late drop off. Like,
I guess
there's no kids
late.
outside.
Holy cow!
Anyways,
it's funny. Neither
that's
here nor
so
there.
funny.
Christmas break was great. It really was a lot of like, just kind of hanging out with the kids. We had a great time. You know, some new video games. The new Mario Party was fun. I don't know what else we played. A lot of board games. We had a lot of board games this year, so we played a lot of those. During Christmas break, we got both kids' bedrooms like redecorated and rearranged and stuff, hung up new posters, like threw a bunch of old toys away, you know, that kind of thing you kind of have to do after Christmas.
Yeah. Yes. Yep.
We had a lot of like just kind of fun evenings, like all four of us hanging out on the couch playing Mario Party, or like, like I said, board games and stuff. There were some fun ones. Or we watched Wicked. It was on Prime as of New Year's, so we downloaded it and
Oh,
watched it.
cool. I didn't see that.
Yeah,
Nice.
so we just bought it
Nice.
because I figured they're gonna watch it again. It was really good. The hype is real.
Okay.
What else? Like tons of football, obviously, like a lot of that going on. I mean, more football to come for some teams, not others, but it happens.
Fuck off. Fucking you son of a bitch. You had to you have anytime
My
you
team
can
gets
find
24 days off, your team's looking for a coach. That is what it
Yeah.
is. It happens. It's okay.
Any
Anyway, that was
chance to
it.
be a Chiefs fan,
That
you
was the
do
break.
it. Cool. Love that your Christmas was great. Now that you've put me in a horrible mood. Yeah, the Jaguars are horrible. We just fired our coach, but we didn't fire the GM, who is the reason why our franchise has been horrible for the last 6 years. Part of.
It's a give and take, man. I mean, like, I do feel like you have drafted some good players.
I think Brian, not to get way into the weeds of football, but because Brian Thomas Jr. had a fucking Pro Bowl, an all pro season this year.
Should have been a Pro Bowler. Should have.
I think because that he had that year, I think that was like their saving grace of like, well, look at this, look at these steals that he has had some major whiffs as well. But anyways, yep. Happy New Year, Jaguars. We are still the bottom of the barrel. Christmas was fun. My mom came into town. That was awesome. She got to relive a little bit of the magic. I thought we've had an episode of the pod since, haven't we? I thought
we recorded before Christmas.
Did I? Oh shoot. So I don't think I mentioned freaking the kids came down. Oh my god, it was fucking crazy. So I think I told you. I wrapped the gifts on Christmas Eve. That has been my family's tradition. My father did it. He would do his Christmas shopping on freaking like the last 2 days and then wrap it all Christmas Eve, be up late. I do that too, not the shopping part, but usually my wife and I are up hella late wrapping. Eventually she'll go to bed at like midnight, and then I'll go to bed at like 3 or 4 a.m. after like making everything perfect. My mom was here, so she was like, I'm going to help. Like, I want to wrap some stuff. So, I was like, fucking great. Because last year, Steph got deathly ill.
Oh, that's right.
Maybe it was 2 years ago. Maybe it was last year. She got deathly ill. She couldn't wrap anything. So I had to wrap fucking everything in one night. And it was the worst thing ever. So my mom was here. She's like, I'll wrap. I want to help. It's like, oh, hell yeah, I'll do that. So she wrapped a ton of stuff. But this was the night before Christmas Eve. So we pretty much wrapped all of the gifts the day before Christmas Eve, which I have never done. And I put them all down in my office because I didn't want to take them upstairs to the closet. My kids never come down into the basement into my office. So my whole office, like literally the entire thing, is covered in presents.
Right.
We got the kids, Parker got a big balance bike motorcycle. It's literally just an electric motorcycle. And Grayson got basically a go-kart that like fucking drifts. And those were the big things that they wanted. Those were going to be, they were from us. We weren't saying those were from Santa, but those were out because they're fucking huge and I wasn't going to wrap. I put everything down here. My kids never come into my office. They definitely never go downstairs in the morning because it's dark down here and they are terrified to come down to grab anything, even if it's like, get some out of the fridge. They will not go down unless I'm around. I wake up on Christmas Eve with Parker this far from my face, and he whispers, Dad, I found all of our presents in your office. And I like, it didn't register at first, but it was like, what? What did you say? And then, so like, I have an immediate panic attack. Try waking up Stephanie, like, the kids went down and saw all the presents in the. So like, immediately Parker realizes that he's in huge trouble. And luckily, all of them were in like baskets, so they were stacked. So you couldn't really like, you couldn't see what was all there, but you definitely could see the fucking balance bike and the go-kart.
Yeah.
And then we had these 2 giant ass bluey stuffies for the baby. And so we had to have this like really long talk with them about how they were in huge trouble. They were terrified. my wife was mortified. So we had to have a conversation of like, you guys know that because we have talked with them that we do most of the presents and that Santa brings like 2 gifts every year.
That's how we do it.
We didn't have the Santa gifts out. So like those weren't with them and they're wrapped separately. But we basically had to have this really long talk of like, you don't go like if you see something you're not supposed to, you don't. And my kids are usually the good kids. Like they tell on people for doing bad things. Usually they would see that and turn around and come upstairs. So I was pretty like, I shouldn't be shocked, but I'm an idiot for not going all out of like covering things up. But they literally never come down here. And for the one fucking day they did. So they saw their balance bike and their fucking go-kart before. But the whole day I was like, you know the rules of snooping presents early? Those presents are no longer there the next day. So like that's the rules. So hope you guys enjoyed seeing those things because those 2 aren't going to be there tomorrow. Or you better hope they are if you are really good today. So they still were like surprised, like thank God in the morning when they were still there because they really wanted those. But it was fine, but it was just kind of like, what the fuck, you fucking kids, you little shitheads.
Anyways, it's pretty funny.
That was a lot of info.
It's good
way
stuff.
Longer than I thought.
I like it though. I mean, that's a good story. And it's one of those ones it's like, we're going to talk about this for years because it's hilarious. Yes. You'll remember that Christmas when you little bastards went downstairs.
You little fucking assholes.
It's always good to have those stories. And I'll remember this Christmas, and I think I said this on the last pod because we recorded like 4 or 5 days before Christmas. I was done. Like I was so dialed in. Yep. I was so laser focused on Christmas this year. Like, man, seriously, I think it was the 26th or 27th. There wasn't a lick of Christmas left in this house. Like it was down. It was gone. It was boxed up. I had the lights down. Like we were done. Like it was. It was.
I love it.
Anyway.
Why is my camera is like not focused? I don't know what the hell is going on.
It's focusing on something.
Anyways, continue. I'm listening.
Anyway, no, I'm done. Go ahead. Whatever. What's next? What segment are we going into?
Let's jump into my most. It's been so long since we've done this, I forget. My most excited segment, our 6 to midnight. This is the part of the show where we talk about the things that are getting us up in the morning. With what we're excited about nerd-wise, new trailers, new movie castings, comic books, video games, all that fun, trailers, etc. So it's been actually obviously super busy. I feel like there's a ton of news that I'm probably glossing over, but for me, the big one was like last week. They freaking delayed Matt Reeves' The Batman another year, which is crazy. That's the like 5th time that they've delayed it, and that means we're not getting it until 2027 October, I think, which is like 5 or 6, almost 7 years. Like just crazy distance between the original first one and this sequel. And the internet went basically crazy on James Gunn.
Rightfully so.
Basically, like, what are you guys doing with Batman?
And what are you doing with Batman?
Yeah, nothing. They're doing nothing other than giving him a brief little moment in Creature Commandos that they showed, which is interesting. So this Creature Commando show comes out, which is good. James Gunn was making that taking over. We've already talked about that.
Preface this. Kyle and I have had a lot of dialogue over Christmas break about this via texting and stuff. So a lot of this we've talked about.
Yes, we talked about it. And I said, I'm not going to talk too much about this on the pod because I've had a week to calm down.
And here we go.
So Creature Commandos came out. It's a good show. I am enjoying it. It's great. It would have been fine separate on its own. It's not what they're kicking the DCU off with. It is, but it wasn't like a kickoff. They're just doing it, and they're going to make it a part of the DCU because he was already making it. Well, guess what? The most viral things from the show have been, one, they showed a dream future scene where superheroes were dead, and Batman was one of them. And that was like, everybody, look, this is the first view of Batman in James Gunn's DCU. Then in this past week, there was a clip where he is standing like above a skylight window. And again, it set the internet ablaze of like, this is the first look at James Gunn's DCU Batman. And which it's interesting that they put him in because obviously he's a major character and there's some Batman villains in that show, but they don't have a movie. They have a director who the director, Muschietti, said last week, the same day that the movie, the Batman was delayed, said that he did say on a podcast, like, our Batman movie now is so far out that I'm going to do probably 1 or 2 movies between then because we don't literally have any movement on our Batman. So James Gunn has put no emphasis on creating a Batman, no emphasis on starting Batman. It's not what they're building their universe around. We are literally getting DCEU over again. We're getting a Superman movie that kicks off the franchise, the world, and we're going, and then Batman, just like in the DCEU, is not a main character. Think back about that. Ben Affleck, badass Batman, he was in a Batman and Superman movie.
He never got his own movie.
Never got his own movie. He literally did it. He was a side character that they used in a few movies, and he was totally just. It's crazy that DC has the number one superhero entity, property, IP in the world, and they can't figure out, other than their comic line that has 50 Batman lines.
50 Batman comics.
But it works. People buy it. So the fact that they haven't figured out maybe our number one character, whom we could put out dog shit and people are going to buy and go see it and watch it and probably love it because it's Batman. They're giving us side characters like the Penguin and people are like eating it up. Give us a Batman, bro. What is your problem? Why do you hate him so much?
It doesn't make a lot of sense. Like, there was even, and I text you this, the whole dream sequence from Creature Commandos. James Gunn said they could only use characters that were already established as being in the DC universe. So the fact that Batman's in that dream means he exists, and yet we have no plans.
Yeah, zero. And the only plans
Andy Muschietti, who fucked up the Flash, is making the movie, and he's so far out that he's got to do other stuff. I don't know, man. It's weird. And you and I were texting, like, Matt Reeves wants to get the script right. The fuck has he been doing? Like,
dude,
he's produced 2 things. He hasn't done another movie since he did the Batman. Like, what are you doing, man?
Yeah.
Like, do you have a bad case of writer's block or like, is shit going on bad at home? You know, I mean, you can bring help in. There's plenty of people that would be happy to help you with Batman. Sure. Yes. Robert Pattinson's going to be like the Dark Knight Returns by the time he's in another fucking movie.
I saw someone posted a gif of the Batman 3, and it was literally fucking.
I sent that to you. It's like an aged Robert Pattinson.
Old man.
Yeah, in 2057 when the Batman 3 comes out.
Here's the crazy part though, is that James Gunn, he throws Matt Reeves under the bus like it's nobody's business about. Their script is still not done. That's why it's been pushed back.
Yeah.
When Matt Reeves, like months ago, said that the script was done, so which James Gunn came out and kind of combated that and was like, a script was completed. It doesn't mean that like there's still rewrites and stuff. But the way I want to be like, okay, James Gunn, but you are the one who said that the Batman has nothing to do with your universe. So what does that have to do with?
That's what I don't understand. That's kind of part of what I don't understand either. Is like, what's the in the writing process? If you have your full story written in a draft, like, everything beyond that is editing and rewriting and modifications, but your base is done. So if the base is done, then and it's been done for a while, did you scrap it and start over?
Yeah. Why do you need a year?
Because it doesn't make sense that it would take that much longer to do revisions. You know, like that part. There's something's going on. We kept texting, we're like, something's up, something's fishy. There's something wrong. We don't know what it is. Like something's up.
There was so much news that came out in like a 24-hour period where it was like the Batman is delayed to 2027. Then Andy Muschietti said that the Brave and the Bold is moved so far back that he's pretty much it's non-existent, and he's going to do other movies. And then it was talked about, basically the murmurs were like, well, it's finally happening. The reason why they're moving it is because they're going to make Pattinson the DCU Batman. They're like, Warner Bros. Finally made him cave. They're just going to be like, you have a Batman who's age appropriate. It's already had a great movie. Just fucking put him in your universe. Why does it have to be separate? Which for like a day, I thought that's what was happening. I was like, okay, that all of that makes sense.
It could still be. That could be what happens.
But James Gunn already came out and said that it wasn't. He came out and said that the Brave and the Bold is still moving forward, and that their Batman is still.
But they're so far out that
there's literally no plans.
I know. It's
just crazy. It's crazy.
It is.
Why? Who loves money? Not them. Clearly.
Something's going on at DC. We don't know what. It's weird. It doesn't make sense because you should be putting out Batman property. They could literally write and make another Penguin series, like series 2, before the Batman 2 comes out. Like it's that far out.
That will likely happen. 1, 2.
Ridiculous.
Also, he did say something. Someone asked about the Flash, and he commented specifically that they were holding off on some heroes, the Flash being one of them. Basically, in other words, to like give that hero time to breathe from the debacle that once was.
Oh, the debacle and the director that you gave another job to?
Yes. So there was kind of, people were kind of taking that as like, wait a minute. Okay, so you've now picked some heroes that you purposely don't want to have involved. You'd rather kick your franchise off with Superman, which is awesome. I love Superman. Superman and Supergirl and Creature Commandos and Waller and
what's the other one? The Outfit or something like that?
There's Lanterns.
Lanterns will be good though. I think that'll be
Lanterns will be good. I'm excited for that. We got what's his name? The Pierre. What's his name? What's the guy who got
Aaron Pierre?
He just went on a podcast and talked about that. He's like,
he's so jacked.
He's so researching. He's watching shows, and by shows, there's only one, and it's called Justice League Unlimited and Justice League. So that's awesome. Anyways, I tried not to. I did it anyways. What else do you got? What happened?
Well, we got a little bit of casting news in the DC universe too. Jason Momoa is going to be Lobo.
Oh yeah,
which is like the best casting ever. He looks like Lobo before they change him. I mean, his attitude fits that character so well. It's like dead on, right? So that'll be fun, and that's going to be in Supergirl. So we found that out. He's going to actually be that. He actually posted on social media just the other day. He was like smoking a cigar and having a drink, and he's like reading he's got the script, right? For your eyes only kind of deal, which was cool. Other things, just want to touch on just a couple things real quick. Golden Globes were last night, which was exciting. Obviously it's awards season. We just want to talk about movies real quick. Nobody that I know watched the Golden Globes because everybody was watching the end of the NFL football season and what ended up being a stinker of a game. But
I made money on it. I knew they were going to do it. I took all the unders and I hit.
It's unbelievable. I can't believe that.
6 on the unders on that game.
Good for you. But the big winners were Adrian Brody and Sebastian Stan both won Best Actor awards for films. Demi Moore and Fernanda Torres won Best Actress awards, and then Zoe Saldana and Kieran Culkin won Supporting Actress awards for movies, which is great. So that was The Brutalist was the big winner. Best Dramatic Feature, which is a movie that I have heard rave things about, but I haven't seen. And then Emilia Perez, which I think is on Netflix, was the musical or comedy, which was kind of a surprise. I think a lot of people thought Wicked was going to pull that one out. So a lot of Golden Globe winners. Colin Farrell won for The Penguin, which was cool. And then obviously Shogun like swept for drama series. Like actor, actress, supporting actor, best show, that kind of thing.
That one supporting actor had like the most genuine, wholesome
yes
speech ever. That was just so like surprised and thankful. And I got to get on a plane to get to Tokyo at 2 a.m. But this is awesome.
It's funny.
That was freaking sweet.
I still haven't watched Shogun, and me and my wife keep talking about it, like, because we both want to watch it and we want to watch it together. Tadanobu Asano is the guy you're talking about, because he won Best Supporting Actor. And he was in the Thor movies. He was one of the Warriors 3, so I thought that was pretty cool. Cool. But anyway, we keep saying we're going to watch it, so now we definitely have to get that done. Other news, just real quick, that I want to talk about. So the Consumer Electronics Show was in Vegas actually today, which is a big thing. Sony put a lot of stuff out. Last of Us Season 2, they announced is going to premiere in April. So they did give us a release date for that. So it's only a few months away, which is great. Anybody who watched Season 1, it's phenomenal. And then just a couple quick notes on some things that are in development from Sony. Columbia Pictures is developing a Horizon Zero Dawn movie.
Cool.
Which I know is pretty fun, and it's got like big like robotic animals and stuff like that, right?
Yeah, it's like dystopian future, like the world is pretty much in just like the whole world has ended, so it's just like ruins, but it's almost like prehistoric times. So there's like dinosaurs and animals, but they're, like you said, the robots from the previous world's technology. So she's like a bow and arrow, run and gun, open world, like beautiful graphics. It's just it's a cool game.
So they're making a movie out of that. They announced that Helldivers is being made into a movie, which will be kind of cool.
Yeah. That better be this generation's Starship Troopers. God damn it.
Right? It should be. And then the one I thought that would excite you the most, and I know you hadn't heard this yet, Crunchyroll is developing an anime based on Ghost of Tsushima.
Let's go. That I did not see that. That is awesome.
That just came out just like an hour ago.
Dude, Ghost of Tsushima is one of the greatest video games of all time. It is a movie and a video game. I thought they were doing a movie of that. Weren't they? Aren't they supposed to be doing a movie?
Announced that. Well, they did. The sequel's coming out, and then I think they talked about a movie, but they're doing an anime.
That's
so cool. I don't know if they're still doing the movie or not, but they just announced that they're doing an anime on it too, which will be pretty
immediately
cool.
Think of Blue-Eyed Samurai, which was so good.
Yeah.
So that'll be cool. The reason why, or one of the things that stands out about Ghost of Tsushima so much is just like there are so many beautiful scenes, like just in terms of like background setting moments. So being that in anime, I can see be like freaking kick ass.
Yeah, hopefully it's like Blue-Eyed Samurai. Man, what a show that was. That was so good. I remember when it's just I'm rambling, but like the Emmys came out, and it was X-Men 97 was up for Best Animated Show, and it lost, and I was like, what bullshit, what won? And it was Blue-Eyed Samurai, and I was like, oh, that's all right. I get it. Okay, I get it. Yeah, it's kind of funny. I was watching A Few Good Men a few weeks ago, and I was watching that scene with Jack Nicholson at the end where he's on the stand, and you can't handle the truth, and I was like, how did he not win an Oscar for this movie? And I went back and looked, and I was like, oh, Gene Hackman won for Unforgiven, and I was like, okay, all right, that's right, I remember now. It's okay, that's okay.
Dang it.
Yeah, it was one of those things. Anyway, rambling, but that was all I had. Just some quick notes because I knew we were going to talk about Batman way longer than we'd planned to. So, just some quick notes.
So known for that.
Well, it is what it is. But let's, that takes us into our big premiere movie of the week. Came out last week, but we went and saw it, and we got to review it. The 2024 American supernatural horror film Nosferatu. That's pretty good, actually. Nosferatu is written and directed by Robert Eggers, which is a remake of the F.W. Murnau's 1922 silent film of the same name, which, of course, itself was inspired by the 1897 novel Bram Stoker's Dracula. The cast includes Lily Rose Depp as Ellen Hutter, Nicholas Hoult as Thomas Hutter, Bill Skarsgård as Count Orlok, or the vampire. Aaron Taylor Johnson as Friedrich Harding, Willem Dafoe as Professor Eberhard von Franz, Emma Corrin as Anna Harding, Ralph Ineson as Dr. Sievers, and Simon McBurney as Herr Nock.
You went through the whole cast. All right.
Well, because I know when we're talking about this movie, we're probably going to reference all of them because they all have pretty big things going on. Was made with a $50 million budget, and as of last I checked, $50 million. That's it.
Wow.
I think it's one of those movies where it's like, I want to work with that director, kind of deal. And
yeah. Wow.
And it's already made over 100 million, obviously. So since it came out on Christmas, I think it's number three at the box office right now, behind Mufasa and Sonic.
I just realized I did not bring my coffin popcorn bucket for this episode. I'm so dumb.
got it. You see, it's right here. So funny story. Funny story. Right so there. Kyle and I were supposed to go see this on Christmas, and we had tickets for Christmas night. Like after family leaves and stuff, we're gonna go see Nosferatu. That's the plan. I couldn't do it. I was exhausted, and I text Kyle. I'm like, "Merry Christmas. Sorry, I can't do it. I am going on no sleep. I'm gonna die."
You and two other groups of people had bought tickets and were going to meet all of us to go together. And all groups texted like within 10 minutes, we're not going. And I had kind of forgotten about it, and then was like, oh shit, I need to buy my tickets, bought them, and was like, Steph, reminder, we're going to see this movie. And then 5 minutes later, everybody canceled. So it's like, I'm still going. I don't care. This looks great.
And so I went the next day, and you had said, there's one thing about this movie that I need your first reaction. I'm not going to tell you what it is. You'll know right away. And as soon as I walked out of the theater, I just text Kyle, who wants a mustache ride? And we'll get into it here soon. But yes, so Kyle,
that was exactly. I said you said, well, how was it? And I said, I can't say anything to you, but there's one thing that you're going to immediately talk to me about right after. And you did. You said it just like on cue. It was like, yes, that was exactly. Ugh. Anyways, what you got there?
Kyle goes on Christmas, and he texts me a picture. They had the sarcophagus popcorn bucket, which is fucking awesome. And then he's like, and so then the next day I go. And I texted him, and I was like, they were all out of them at the theater I went to. They'd sold them all on Christmas. However, I got the fucking Lord of the Rings
fucking
hammer bucket. My wife's like, what is that hammer? And I'm like, it's a popcorn vessel. See, you put your popcorn in it.
A popcorn vessel. That's not what I refer to them from now on.
It's a popcorn vessel, but it's also like a 28-inch hammer.
I wish you fucking put the popcorn in it and carry it like over your shoulder.
I should have. I was carrying it around in the theater. I was like, I don't give a shit. I'm going to carry this around.
Awesome.
Kyle came in clutch, and he got me a coffin as well. So thank you, sir. I very much appreciate it.
They said they only had a certain amount left, and I was like, I'll take all of them.
It is amazing.
Because they're AMC theaters, but the theater I went to was not AMC. Right, so the lady was like, she was really a nerdy manager, but she pretty much was like, I thought those were the coolest things ever. So I went out of my way to order a certain amount. We have been selling them for 40 minutes. There is only this many left. So like, give me all of them. Don't take them.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's cool for sure. So anyway, first thought, obviously it's a new movie, so we'll do a spoiler warning. But if you've seen any Dracula movie, you've got a pretty good idea how it's going to go down, because the story's pretty much the same. Gorgeous movie. It is beautiful. It is a literal work of art. I will tell this from the get-go. You need to see this in the theater. It's amazing. Like, it looks so good. We were even texting back and forth about this. There's a carriage scene that just like, it's like you're looking at a painting.
It's visually stunning.
It's the whole movie's like that.
which it's that particular scene I mentioned to you, and I have seen when people are referencing the movie online, like reviews, they all reference that same scene. So I think that was just like stunning to so many people.
Well, I had a fun fact. Keep going. I had a fun fact about that. So keep going.
Yeah, I think I texted you this once you had finally seen it. It was like, all right, now I can talk about it. This is one of those movies, which there are not a lot of movies like this, but this is one of those movies that you could pause it at any moment in the movie and it is a painting. Like everything is perfectly framed, artistically put together. Literally any moment in this movie you could screenshot and post as like this is what this movie is about, and it was just fucking gorgeous. It's beautiful.
So what I was going to the fun fact I had was the carriage scene was an intentional nod to director Victor Sjöström's silent film classic from 1921 called The Phantom Carriage.
Okay, so
that was meant to be a point of emphasis.
Okay, so you sent me was that a remake of that same thing that you sent, or what was that?
The thing I sent was totally different. So what I sent was totally different. So I sent Kyle. I was like, totally reminded me of this clip from this old Disney movie from like the 1950s called Darby O'Gill and the Little People. It's like this leprechaun movie. Anyway, but it takes place in Ireland. Like my family, we used to watch it like on St. Patrick's Day. It was a thing. Anyway, so that's what I know what this movie is. But this movie has like 20.
This movie called The Phantom Carriage in that movie, though, right?
Yeah, so it's like there's a banshee that comes and like signals that somebody's going to die, and then the Phantom Carriage comes empty to take whoever's going to die away, and it shows this like carriage with these horses coming out of the sky, like down from the clouds, and I'm like, it just reminded me of that, and it does. It kind of looks like it.
It does the same thing. It does I mean, we're not getting into spoilers, but it does the same thing from that scene. So I was like, that's got to be directly from it. So.
I don't know if he thought no notes I hadn't seen anywhere. It's just what it reminded me of. But if you've never seen Darby O'Gill and the Little People, you can see Sean Connery when he was like 25 years old.
I also was
and
surprised
all his hotness,
when you sent me that.
By the way.
There's a reason why he was James Bond. Okay.
There's a reason he was Mr. Universe. So.
Wait, what? Sean Connery was Mr. Universe?
Yeah, dude. Get with the program.
Jesus. Oh my God, I'm so young. I didn't know. Let's get back on track here.
Yes, get on track. Anyway, we'll get right to the story and everything. Gorgeous movie. The acting is fantastic. Like all parts. Like everybody's in their own right, some sort of crazy, and they nail it, and it's really good. The only one I could probably like take or leave is honestly Aaron Taylor Johnson.
Yeah.
Because his part isn't as, he's just kind of a dickbag in the movie, and he plays it well because I think it fits.
Which is funny because he has like a high pitched voice and accent.
Yeah.
Which when I first heard it was like, oh my God, listen to Aaron Taylor Johnson doing his accent. Like, how weird is that? Turns out, no, that's like what he actually sounds like. That's like the most closest to what he sounds like in real life.
Right.
We're just so used to seeing him as like an American in every movie. So it's kind of like, oh shit, that's actually what it sounds like.
There was a point where I forgot Nicholas Hoult was British, and
yes.
He is. Yeah, great movie. Like, go see it. It's cool. You're gonna like it. There's not a lot wrong with it. But you should see it in the theater because it looks so good.
I am a huge Robert Eggers fan. The Northman is one of like my all-time favorites. It was just such a cool movie. He does some visually stunning things. Like he is one of the current like greats right now, like the active
after 4 movies.
You had sent to me like he's hit nothing but dingers. Every movie he's come out with has been like 93 and above or something with Rotten Tomatoes.
They're all visually something.
Yes.
Something
and
else.
There's something just creepy and ominous feeling, all of them different in every movie, but there's that feeling in all of them. The Vitch is obviously what like started this all for everybody, but like the Northman really set in stone like how much I think he's just a fucking badass. So I was really excited to see this, and he nailed it, crushed it, just like we had expected him to. There was one part of the whole movie that irked me, but the movie itself was amazing. The acting was incredible. The cinematography was just freaking insane. You have to see it in theaters. Go see this movie. It is worth the movie. Go.
All right. Spoiler warning. Spoiler warning.
Get out. Okay. That vampire dick duster it was so distracting. Now, honestly, I think most people like the problem is he just has this wicked giant mustache.
It's huge.
It's massive.
It's literally a broom.
Now, here's my biggest issue. Before all the freaking trolls come in the comments, I started a world war on Instagram commenting back and forth about this with people because my problem is this is a Nosferatu remake, and you've got freaking Skarsgård, the dude who did Pennywise. So I'm thinking we're going to get a version of Count Orlok because that Count Orlok from the original movie, tell me if I'm wrong,
and the remake, and the first remake from the 70s.
And essentially all of them, all of the Nosferatu movies, tell me if I'm wrong, that is one of, if not the most iconic movie monster or one of the most iconic movie monsters of all time.
Probably whether you've seen any of the Nosferatu movies that have come out previously, you could see that vampire, that bald, pointy-eared, bright-eyed, snaggle-toothed,
giant
vampire, and you'd be like, oh, that's Nosferatu.
Yes. So I was hoping to see a really creepy Skarsgård version of that. I was like, oh my God, Robert Eggers is going to take that and make that look so much cooler and creepier and awesome. Listen, people, I know that he went for like the original Dracula book. He's got a mustache. Noblemen from ancient Transylvania, they all had mustaches. He was going for original folklore of vampires, where they say vampires are like walking corpses, dead bodies. In Transylvania, noblemen had mustaches. Everyone in the comments that they're saying, well, actually, if you knew what the original book said, he had a mustache. This isn't a Dracula movie. It is a Nosferatu remake. This is a Nosferatu remake. And yes, people, I know the original Nosferatu is based off the story of Dracula. I know that. But this movie is a remake of Nosferatu, which is a very particular monster. Give me that monster.
My favorite comment about the mustache was, why has he got such a big bushy mustache, but he ain't got no pubes?
Yes.
Because he's full vampire wang.
Fun fact of the movie.
I have it written down.
Oh, okay, cool.
I know what you're talking about.
Fun fact of the movie. So at the very end, not to jump to the end, but at the very end, after he does the deed with his fucking groomed girl, they had his body basically, or like blood was coming out of his eyes and his ears and the holes that were in his body, and they rigged his body that he even had blood coming out his anus, his butthole. And that it just didn't look right or didn't work, so they had to put a plug in it. So
put a cork in that ass.
Yeah, it's such a random thing.
Okay, that's the fun fact I actually had written down.
That
was different. Was actually after filming, Robert Eggers took Count Orlok's prosthetic penis,
which they made,
and put it in a frame He gave it to Nicholas Hoult to hang on his wall at home.
Which he was very excited to have. That was hilarious.
Hilarious. Anyway, okay. So
I'm glad I got my mustache rant out of the way because I actually loved this movie.
Agreed. Listen, we're going to go through this movie fast because it's the story of Dracula.
Yeah.
Count Orlok lives in a castle in Transylvania. He wants to buy a house, not in London, but in this village in Germany because it's Nosferatu. It's not Dracula.
Mm-hmm.
He needs the guy that's the company that's basically doing the deeds and stuff to bring him the paperwork, right? And he does. It's Nicholas Hoult. It's Thomas Hutter. He's newly married, and he's got to go deliver these papers to Transylvania. It's going to take a while, right? Because we're talking about horseback ride. First off, the journey's incredible. Like some of the shots you see in the trailer where he's like standing down like on the side of a mountain in the trees, looking down, and there's a village and stuff. Looks amazing. The whole thing looks incredible. The setting, the characters, the costume design, even the village and the way it's designed, like, you know what time period it is, you know all that. It looks amazing. It's a beautiful film. So he takes the paperwork, he gets to the castle, Count Orlok's there. The movie's creepy as shit. The journey to get there is wild.
Yeah.
We should probably talk about, he stops at like Romani village. It's like an encampment. And they're like, don't go to the castle, don't go to the castle, don't go to the castle. Whatever you do, don't. They didn't want to even like give him a place to stay or anything, right? You can't go there.
It just felt that village just it felt creepy and just you felt like he was gonna get like killed at any moment, like the entire time.
Right, like somebody's gonna shank him. There's a scene where he like wakes up in the middle of the night. He hears noises outside. He follows. There's a naked woman on a horse. Like they're leading her to a grave. He's following. He's in the mud. He's walking around. They get to the grave. They open it up. It's a vampire. They put a stake through the heart. He wakes up, right? Like it's like a ritual. He wakes up, and it was all a dream except his feet are muddy. So it wasn't a dream. It looks great. It's truly amazing. He talked about like the scenes with the wolves. Nicholas Hoult was actually scared because they used all real animals in this movie. Like the wolves were real. The rats were real. Like they used like 100 or 5,000 rats? It was an amazing amount of rats. It was disgusting. Anyway, they used all these live rats.
I didn't know the rat part, but I did know the dog part.
That scene with all the rats, those are real rats. Like it wasn't all CGI. Crazy. They used real rats.
Terrifying.
But anyway, the carriage scene's in there. He's in this dark forest and like he's walking, he's at a crossroads and he just sees like a horse-drawn carriage and these black horses are coming through the night straight at him. It's beautiful. It's like Kyle was saying, like one of those scenes, like it was intentional. It sticks with you. You'll remember it. It's crazy.
Yeah. Hauntingly beautiful and terrifying. Gave me vibes of when he was cruising through the forest heading towards whatever doom he was going towards. It felt like in Beauty and the Beast when she's like in the forest and is like lost in the dark and loses her horse and it's just terrifying. It also kind of gave me vibes of like the Nazgul in like Lord of the Rings coming after him. So it's just like, oh my God, those are coming right at you. Run!
Yeah. And like, why are you standing there? Get out of the way.
Yes. The crossroads was like, it was framed as like bright white. He's right in the middle, but everything else is terrifyingly black. Like it was just gorgeous.
It's gorgeous. Gets to the castle. Count Orlok answers, and I wasn't sure it was Count Orlok at first because I didn't know what to. Nobody knew what he looked like yet. Really, like you get this like the opening scene of the movie is like Lily Rose Depp. It's a couple years before she's like outside in the garden in the moonlight, and obviously there's an entity there you don't see until like a quick flash, like right at the and then the title card comes up, and you know like you didn't get a real good look at him, but you could tell the design was different. Right? Like you knew the design was different, but you couldn't tell. And obviously they didn't show him in the trailers intentionally, which I was grateful for.
Yeah.
I would have loved to have known that mustache was coming, but he didn't. Anyway, he gets to the castle. Orlok's there. Skarsgård has this crazy voice, like this deep, like he's hard breathing, like it's raspy. He's got an accent. It's nothing like I'd ever heard before. Like, how would you describe it? It was wild.
You would never guess that it was Pennywise the clown. doing the voice.
Never.
It was just this thick Eastern European Transylvania voice
That's pretty close.
He overemphasized a lot of his vowels, but like it felt, which you hear Skarsgård talk about in interviews, like it was like coming from his like center of his being.
It's very guttural, very.
Yeah.
He actually worked with opera singer to get the voice down. That's what Skarsgård did. So, listen, the man is fantastic in just about everything he does. Like Skarsgård's something else. He might be the most talented one in the family, and that's saying something because his older brother's pretty talented, the other brother's pretty talented, and obviously Dad's pretty talented, right? Yeah. God, man, he gets lost in some of these roles. And he was talking about wanting to play Batman or something because he wants to, you know, not be this kind of character all the time, you know, the Pennywise and
he mentioned that he would be interested in playing Batman, and then like in that same 24-hour period, I think people were like, bro, Batman? How about the Joker? And then it started rolling like Skarsgård should be the Joker in the DCU, and then he even said like, I would love to be the Joker. So it went from him talking about being the Batman to be like, actually, yeah, I'd love to be. He would be a fucking awesome Joker, by the way.
I hate saying this because the Jokers have all been so good. He might pull off comic accurate Joker the best.
For sure. We'll get tall, skinny, fucking
the things he can do with his face and his eyes and like I hate saying it, but he might
that would be a home run. Like if James Gunn pulled that out of his hat, he'd have something to he'd have me excited for Batman again.
Yeah. Anyways. I just remembered some casting news that came out, and I just threw up a little bit in my mouth.
What? Mention it since we're here.
Because we were talking about Jokers and bad Jokers. They're making a live-action He-Man, and fucking Jared Leto is going to be Skeletor.
Skeletor!
And I was just like, immediately.
He-Man! He's going to be great. Well, hear me out. I liked him in Blade Runner, obviously, but I don't know if he sucked at Joker or not because the studio ruined anything that they were doing.
Yeah, so. It was a bad design. That's not his fault.
Yeah, they shouldn't have done that Juggalo thing.
Anyway. Off subject, but
I like you had mentioned, like you didn't think it was Count Orlok because I was hoping and like just kind of thinking that I was going to see the like not a complete remake of the original, but Robert Eggers' version of that original looking character. And so when we first see him, when Thomas shows up and Count Orlok which you can't tell or don't know that's him. Brings him into his like dining hall where it's just this the castle is very decrepit. It looks like it's been abandoned. It doesn't look like anybody lives there. It looks like it's fallen apart. But then there's this like massive roaring fire and a table with one chair. It's like it looks like a room you want to sprint away from and like but you have to go in is kind of that feeling you get. In that moment, as Thomas is going in and Count Orlok's there and he starts talking in this weird voice, there was like a part of me that was like, oh, please tell me this is just Count Orlok's like helper and that we're going to get the big, creepy, terrifying looking monster. And then was like, oh, that's him. Okay. All right. What's that on his face?
You don't really see him. You don't see him real well. You just kind of get like a silhouette. But there's you see the fingers and the long bony fingers and like the extra joints and the nails and
the hands.
You get a good look at all that, and then you see the flavor saver, and you're like, huh, okay, like does that come off at night? Like is that like when he gets in the moonlight, does it wisp away with the fog? Like what is? Because it's an odd choice. And I know we've already talked about this thing for a while, but when you see it and you didn't know what the creature design was, it is shocking to see. And we're like, you guys got to understand, like this is what we're talking. We're talking like this, man. Like it
literally.
is full faced over the mouth. Like it's not a mustache. It's a brush. Like it's something.
It's a mop. It's not a dick duster. It's a mop.
No, it's down to the chin, man. It is something. So you realize it's the story, like I said, follows just like Dracula. He kind of keeps him locked up in the castle. Meanwhile, back in the village, like the guy that he works for is going crazy. He kind of plays like that Renfield character, Herr Knock. He's a little bit more crazy. He's like drawing on the walls and shit with feces, and like he catches a pigeon and he like bites its head off. He's like eating rats off it's wild.
When you first see him earlier, when he gives Tom, because he's like Thomas's boss, it's Thomas's brand new job, or he wants to get the job.
Right.
If he can do this, he'll land the job. But he seems like a normal kind of quirky boss.
Yeah.
Like an Ebenezer Scrooge, it's a little bit more fun.
Yeah.
And then Thomas goes on this trip, and then like when they pan back to the world, to the village, like all of a sudden there's a naked dude doing like devil, like
drawing pentagrams
stuff
in the floor.
Just like, oh, what the hell? And then it pans around. You're like, wait a minute, that's the guy I just sent him. Oh, he's working for Overlock.
And something too, you know, like Thomas and Ellen are newlyweds. So Ellen goes to stay with their friends, right? Which is where Emma Corrin and Aaron Taylor Johnson come in, the Hardings, right? Like she goes to stay with them. They're friends. They have 2 young daughters. Anna's pregnant with their third. You know, they're hoping it's Friedrich Jr. She goes and stays with them, and they talk about when she was younger, she used to have these fits, like these spells that she would go into, mental fits where she would, you know, kind of freak out in the middle of the night and stuff. Well, these have started happening again. And Lily Rose Depp is, you know, there's the meme, there's tons of memes, right? Because it's like, I'm Lily Rose Depp, you know, and stuff like that, because she's doing all these weird convulsions and stuff.
We haven't said anything about her yet, but no. I was just going to say, honestly, my personal opinion is she was probably the one I was most impressed with in this movie. Like, her acting was
because we haven't seen her in a lot. She hasn't been in a ton of stuff, right? And obviously,
what else has she been in?
She's in that show with The Weeknd that nobody watched, and like a couple other things. I've never seen anything or anything else. Anyway, but
she did some crazy, like weird the Vitch acting when she like was like doing that, and then ripped her shirt. Like that was pretty like intense. I thought she crushed this movie. I thought she was awesome.
She was, man. You know what I would have liked to have seen happen is like that mustache come off and just fill in her forehead, because her hairline in this movie is like where my headphones are. Anyway, so Thomas is basically a prisoner in the castle. Warlock's going to be moving to this German village, and he goes snooping around the castle, which and the one thing, like if you've ever read Dracula, like the book, Dracula's kind of an odd. Have you ever read it? It's an odd book. It's written through like letters and like journal entries and stuff. It's not, you don't read it like a novel. You read it like, you know, like the character, like Jonathan Harker's writing a letter to Mina back, and like he's telling what happens. You know, like what's going on.
But Keanu, Keanu pulled it off.
He's the worst part of that movie. Sorry.
He hadn't had his stride yet.
He hadn't. You are correct. But like in the book, Dracula's very kind of charming. Like he's an old man in the castle, just like Gary Oldman is in that movie. But he's very charming. Him and Harker would sit at the fire and have conversations every night. Like it took a very long time for Harker to feel like he was a prisoner. And this is very different. And then like Orlok's he's a dickhead right from the get-go, right? And like Hutter knows something's wrong immediately. Like he's terrified immediately. Anyway, he goes snooping around the castle. He finds all the boxes with the dirt, which we know is for the ship to take the trip, because he has to take his native soil with him. It's vampire rules, man. I don't make this up. And he finds the box that looks like this popcorn bucket, and he opens it up, and there's big naked Orlok, who's just towering in this thing, and he's gonna
massive.
stake him. He's gonna stake him, and he wakes up and vampire penis, and and then he wakes, and then he wakes, he passes out, he wakes up. He's been feeding on him too, right? Like Orlok's feeding on him. It's all crazy. And he leaves, he finds his way through the woods. And meanwhile, Orlok is traveling by ship over to Germany, right?
Yeah.
Which is basically it's the last voyage of the Demeter. He's slowly feeding on all of these people. It's a vampire rule, if you didn't know, that they can't transport themselves along water. Somebody has to take them.
Oh, I didn't know that.
That's what's a vampire rule. It's a Dracula
Fascinating.
rule. Yeah,
so just that's why you can't go into somebody's house; they have to invite you
until they're invited in. Correct. It's the same thing. It's all from the original Dracula book. But so that's why he has to take the ship. He brings the plague with him, essentially, right? Like he brings thousands of rats. The plague has traveled with him. It's full of illness, and now it's in this village because he's brought it with him, right?
Yeah. We keep calling it a village, but it very much is a city. It's a town.
I don't know. It's not Munich or anything. I don't know what it is, but yeah.
But there's brick roads, tall buildings, etc. And it essentially feels like he brings the plague to London. It's kind of the vibes.
Which it is London and Dracula, but yeah. So he brings it gets to his house. He's taken by boat. Herr Knock takes him. Thomas has come back. He's sick because he's been being fed on.
God. They show we skipped, and I know we're way over time, but the point when the first time that you see Nosferatu, Count Orlok, really sucking on the blood, which one can't be like Dracula on the neck, it's got to be on the chest, which is weird. But the first time you really see, because while Thomas is there, you get a vibe that something's going on and that he's waking up after certain times and doesn't know how he got there, and the days are flying by. And then at one point, once he tries to stake him, then tries to run away, dogs chase him around, and then he wakes up back up in his bed or on the floor or something. I can't remember.
But he kind of rides into town on the horse.
Well, before he's able to get away, we see a scene of Count Orlok in mount position over Thomas, and which I think is why they wanted to do that mustache so bad, was so they could show just how disgusting it looked when it was feeding and had blood and stuff. But he's deep slurping a big gulp, but he's humping him at the same time as he was doing it.
He's doing the Lily Rose.
Yeah. That face you just made is got to be the title for this video. But in that moment, that was that's what this Count Orlok is. That was the moment where you got to see okay, this is what this, which was fucking weird, but in a uncomfortable way, which is what they were going for.
It's very uncomfortable. A lot of this movie kind of just gives you the heebie-jeebies, and not because it's outright scary, but because it's so much of it's creepy. It's a creepy movie. Yeah. There's not a ton of it where it's I'm scared. It's it's a vibe. It's a whole vibe. This movie's a vibe, man. It's uncomfortable. It's creepy. He gets back. They're staying with the Hardings because he's sick. She's crazy. There's a whole bunch of weird shit going on. The plague's in town, and Aaron Taylor Johnson manages the docks. Is his job. So he's ooh, we got to deal with this. Meanwhile, Ralph Ineson is Dr. Severs, and he's been dealing with Knock in the insane asylum, but he escapes because he kills a dude. Right? Does he rip his throat out or something?
Yeah, he fucking feeds on him.
Yeah,
he while he's tied up, knocks this dude over. And
he knocks his chair over. The guy goes to help him, and he's yeah.
God.
And so Severs basically he's talking to Harding, right? And he's I know a guy that's a little crazy who is more into the occult stuff. He might know, and that's Willem Dafoe's Professor von Franz, and he's kind of the Van Helsing character. Which in the book, Van Helsing's not like this badass vampire hunter. He's kind of more like this kind of character. Than he's portrayed in like more recent stuff.
Oh, he's not freaking Hugh Jackman running around as Indiana Jones,
like a gun,
action
like
star
crossbow that shoots stakes or anything.
James Bond, vampire hunter.
Not that. But anyway, he has all these theories. He's the one that's like, it's Nosferatu. He's the one that brought this plague. We have to find him. We have to destroy him. It'll fix blah, 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 blah. Lily Rose Depp's part of it. He knows she's part of it, and he knows what has to be done. But he's not telling anybody. And it gets wild. Like there's a scene where, you know, she's like, they get kicked out and they have to go back to their own house, and her and Thomas are fighting, and then they're doing it. And, you know,
that scene was intense.
It was intense. And it's like, he must have already had a boner too, watching her do her thing, because like he's ready to go immediately.
Yeah.
And I don't know.
She like so we haven't really mentioned, but like I mentioned earlier that she basically is groomed by Count Orlok her whole life, or when she becomes a teen.
Yeah.
But I don't know why she was she, in the very beginning of the movie, she's doing like some type of prayer, but calls out for any entity to come and save her.
Yeah.
And it essentially is like invites this Count Orlok demon Nosferatu to imprint on her. So he is obviously, the whole premise of the movie is he is after this woman that he is in love with or wants to own for eternity. And she has that imprint on her. So like, I thought also did a really great job of like, at some parts you feel like she really loves her new husband, Thomas, and she just wants to be with him and she wants to get away from whatever this thing is. But then like he went on his trek, or when he's going to find out where he's going to go, she's talking out loud clearly to Orlok, like that he's finally going to go away so that they could be together. Like the plan is in place. So like you get a vibe that there's the parts where she is like not possessed, but like this imprint that she actually wants Count Orlok, and she doesn't know why, but she's obsessed and is in love with him.
Yeah.
And so like when that all comes to head in this weird, uncomfortable scene with her and him, where like I think she kind of realizes that she has to do that, but she doesn't want to do that. She wants to be with her husband, so she wants to bang him one more time. But then she totally like cuck talks to him, like basically at one point, like as she's in her trance, is like, you'll never like love me like he could, or you could never do what he could with me. But then she's like back into Thomas mode, and then they bang. So
Thomas should grow a mustache.
Yeah, maybe if Thomas had a gigantic broom for a mustache,
massive,
she would have liked him more. But anyways, that was like the main scene where she, I thought, kind of crushed it. But was
it was. Listen, all jokes aside about this movie, the performances are incredible. The atmosphere, we've talked all about it. It's great. Like, it's great. There's a lot of crazy things that happen in this movie that are easy to make jokes about because they're so wild. Her with the, you know, and the mustache and all of it's all great. It's just some of it's like, it's very memeable. It's very funny. At some points it's over the top, and it's not that it doesn't fit. It's just so over the top. It's crazy. Basically, like, Sievers is he's all about believing von Franz and like what they need to do. And obviously Thomas Hutter's, he's all about it too, because he wants to save his wife, whatever he needs to do. Harding's a little bit more on the fence, but he's willing to go kind of through with it. But tragedy strikes in the middle of the night. Orlok comes, he makes Harding go to sleep and like not wake up, and he goes into the daughter's room, and the mom wakes up screaming. She's like, there's something's going on, wake up, he can't wake up. She goes in there, and Orlok's literally got one of the little girls, and he's just like gulping on her and drops her, kills both of them, kills the mom. Obviously, Harding wakes up. He's devastated. His whole family has just been murdered while he was sleeping. And it's a very tragic funeral. He breaks down. He like crawls. He goes to the mausoleum when they're supposed to go kill Orlok. He goes to the mausoleum. He basically like crawls into his wife's coffin, and he dies, right? Like it's just tragic. And so they decide they still have to go through with it. Von Franz says they have to kill him like before dawn in his coffin, whatever. The whole plan is sham. It's a sham because the only person that can kill him is Lily Rose Depp's character, Ellen. She has to basically like consummate their whatever it is. And then, and you kind of explain it, because
no, it's which I had never gone back and watched the original movie, so like I know of like generally what the movie was, but some of the stuff like I didn't know that's how they saved, like that's how to stop. So for me, I was like, all right, how's this going to end? But basically, like it feels like we're two trains heading toward each other the entire movie, and that those trains are that Count Orlok and this girl banging. Like that's going to be when the world explodes and all hell breaks loose. And that is basically what it leads up to. The very end, she knows that she's given herself up and that she has to sleep with Orlok.
She basically has to keep him occupied.
Keep him distracted until the sun comes up. Yeah, with all of that bad. So Count Orlok and her have this like book talk. You know, the bad guy monster gets with the girl. It is like there's a lot of sexual tension, but it's also like disgusting.
Ew.
It's so gross because they made their Count Orlok look like a corpse.
He is literally a corpse with a mustache.
And, yes, and so
it's
and he's breathing like as if he's a corpse, like he doesn't know how to breathe. Like it's just so hard every time. So they're doing it. It's disgusting. And then the sun comes up, he dies, and that's when they give you just like a top-down scene or view of both. She dies as well at the same time. They do it. She saves it, but by doing him, that kills her. And so that like we get this visual of like dead body on top of dead body, and you just see all of Orlok, and he's gross. His legs look skinnier than mine. They're like toothpicks. They're
like bones.
Just looks like a body that was just dug up out of the ground. And
it's like a skeleton with a piece of burlap put over it.
Yeah, so it's so gross. And creature like effects awesome. They crushed it with making this look horrifying. And that's the moment that I mentioned earlier where like as he dies, he's like bleeding out of all of his orifices, including his butt. And that's when actually, so as she's doing that, Thomas goes on that wild goose chase, finds out that that's not actually how you kill Orlok, and then realizes that his wife is going to sacrifice herself to survive. So it's a super sad ending. But we knew that was where this was going. Or at least generally knew. So it's the whole movie itself. It's not a black and white movie, but it's shot as if it's a black and white. Like the
flashback scenes are black and white, right? Like, aren't they?
Yeah. Yep. But like just the color itself of the movie is all muted. The only real things that really pop are orange fire. There's rooms that are lit by candlelight, and they barely light the whole room. So it's a very dark movie. It feels bleak from beginning to end. But that's what like we wanted from this movie. Yes. So it crushed it.
Listen, like everything we talked about, like again, it's a really great movie. It looks amazing. It's worth the watch. It's just uncomfortable. And it is, but it's one of those movies like I watched it in the theater. I'll probably watch it once at home, and it's one of those, but it's not one of those movies I'm gonna watch it all the time. Like that might be it. I might watch this movie twice and say I'm good.
Yeah,
I've had enough.
That's a good point. Because I watched The Northman on Christmas Eve, and I was rapping because I was prepping for this movie. I really love The Northman. This is not the same in terms of I would watch it. I think it is. It's just like the original Nosferatu. I wouldn't call it a cult following because I think there's a lot of people that liked and loved this movie, but this is like a flagship movie for those gothic vibes, like dark horror kind of moviegoers. So,
and it's really it's Robert Eggers' first like big movie too. Really, it really is. It's his fourth feature. Obviously, we've seen his films. We like his work, but not everybody has. Like The Witch was his first movie, pretty well known, I think, in horror circles, but not mainstream. The Lighthouse, I think, even fewer people saw. The Northman was, again, same thing. Like it was kind of like it was a very controlled group of people. Wasn't for everybody. And, like not a ton of people saw it. So this is kind of his more mainstream. So this is good for him because like more people are going to see his work and his visual style and the kind of stuff that he puts out and see, why he has become such a popular like horror kind of director, and it's not like I don't think of Robert Eggers as a horror director, even though he's made 4 movies and 3 of them are pretty much horror,
essentially.
It is kind of wild to think about it that way. But he could do like any kind of period movie, I think, and it would work out well. Like whether it's a thriller or he's the kind of guy that like he should do a Western kind of deal. You know what I mean? Like
it's weird you say that. I was just Googling like what I thought I had saw that there was something.
Wasn't he doing like a medieval movie? Is that what his next plan was? I'd seen.
Yeah. So there's a couple of films. He said he could either do The Night, a Western, or Rasputin.
Okay.
Was the thing. So it's interesting. You said a Western. I'm like, oh,
yeah.
I wouldn't have thought that for him.
Yeah.
Period piece for sure.
Yeah. And that's why I think like he could do a Western. And it might not be your traditional like sunrises, sunsets, desert, colorful kind of Western. It'd be a little bit different. But I think he could do like that. Listen, I highly recommend this movie. I think it's great. It's really good. I'm going to give it an 8.5.
Yeah.
It's because it's good. It's great. It's so cool to look at. It's so fun to watch. Just the visuals.
Yeah. Oh man. I'm going to give it an 8.5. If they would have done the Orlok sort of look, I probably would have gave it a 9.5 or a 10. Honestly,
it really did bother you that much.
It bugged me so much because this wasn't a Dracula movie. It was a Nosferatu movie. Like it was a remake of a very specific character, and they decided to make it more of a Dracula movie, even though it was based on Dracula, the original. I know, but this was about the original. So, anyways, that was my only issue with the whole movie. Other than that, it's fucking awesome. 8.5. Go see it.
Yeah, great. This kind of movie too. That's like I immediately like the next day watched Boy Kills World on Hulu just because I wanted more Skarsgård. Like I need more of him. Have you seen that? The movie's it's a video game movie. It's like you're watching a video game. It's wild.
He is. I don't think a lot of people know he's in like an Amazon TV show or Amazon show it's based at Shawshank Prison.
Oh, that's it. That's on Hulu. Castle Rock.
Oh, okay, that's what it is.
It's like all Stephen King stories like intersecting in a world. Yeah.
Have you watched all of them?
Yes, it's great.
Like
it's
half
great.
of them.
Yeah.
He was on because it was after it, and like he was hot, and so people were like, "Go watch the show."
He was on a show that was on Netflix. I think it was only 2 or 3 seasons called Hemlock Grove, which was like,
dude,
yeah,
Hemlock Grove was great.
Yeah, nobody knew who he was in that either, and I was like, man, I would really like to see him as a comic book villain. I think that would be really cool. And then I remembered he's actually Zeitgeist in Deadpool 2. He's only in the movie for like 5 minutes, but he's in it. The one that like vomits up acid. Remember that?
Yeah.
That's him.
What?
And then he was actually the bad guy in Eternals, and I had no idea.
Oh my God.
Because it's like an alien, but he's the like, voice and mocap. I had no idea.
I had no idea. I'm literally looking it up right now. I did not know that. That is fascinating, man.
But, yeah.
Shocking. He's hot right now.
He's great, and he's 6'4". He's massive. Gigantic as the creature, right? Yeah. So that worked out well. But anyway, yeah, great movie. Go see it. That takes us into my favorite segment. There can be only 5.
Only 5.
So we did vampire movies. That's what we did. Straight up. We just were like, let's do vampires.
Yeah.
And not just Dracula movies, but vampire movies. Do you want to go first? Or do you want me to go first?
I'll go first. I'm fine with that.
Kill it.
I think we're going to have different lists. I really do.
I have a ton of movies. I'm not usually the one that has a bunch of mentions and shit.
Dude.
My list is gigantic.
I almost texted you and said, we might have to do a top 10. Because there's a lot that I wanted to mention. I will preface this. Blade probably would have been number 1 or number 2 on my list, but I'm not going to put him on my list because we did a whole episode about Blade. We talked ad nauseum about it, and Blade is fucking awesome, but I wanted to, we talked about it. Let's do something different. So those who just see the clips are going to be like, why didn't you put Blade on it? I think Blade's.
Well, I put Blade on my list. So.
All right, good for you. I love that. I figured you would, and you should, and I probably should, but I wanted to talk about some other movies. 2 honorable mentions. 1, I Am Legend. It was really hard not to put it on my list because it probably should have been, but I feel like most people don't really look at that as a vampire movie.
Traditional, yeah, I get that.
It's like feels kind of more like a zombie movie, but technically it's a vampire movie. So I Am Legend, Will Smith, that movie fucking rocked. And then this one probably should be on my list, but I've talked about it on a couple lists before, so I left it off. 30 Days of Night. What a badass fucking horror vampire movie where you don't get any of the traditional Dracula stuff. You get monster vampires.
I'm a big fan of like cool concepts, and that's a movie with a cool concept.
Super cool.
It's based on a graphic novel. Yeah.
Yep. Love it. All right. Number 5. Sorry, I flipped my 5 and 4 at one point. Number 5, I'm going to go with a whole franchise, Underworld. I know people don't think these movies are great, but I actually really like the Underworld movies. If I had to pick one, it would actually probably be Rise of the Lycans as my favorite one. Most people see Underworld 1 as the best, but
they're a lot of fun. Those are a lot of fun.
Yeah, there's some cool vampire vibes in there. So I figured you were going to talk about Blade potentially on your list. So I was like, let's give Underworld some love because it's fucking awesome. Number 5, the Underworld franchise. Number 4, roast me for saying it. I don't care. Twilight. I'm putting it on as my number 4 vampire movie. Twilight, it shook the world when that movie came out. It was so popular. Good. I will say this, I had never heard of it before. When I went to see that movie, it was like a first movie date with a girl. She told me, come see this movie. I'd never even seen a trailer, and I liked it. I had no idea it was a freaking romantic kid movie, but whatever. Batman's in it. It's fucking sweet. You gotta love it. Twilight, my number 4.
They're all.
I had it as my number 5, but I moved it up.
They're all fucking terrible, Kyle. They're all trash.
Oh.
My wife, I was like, I watched the movie with my wife, and she's like, "Oh my god, isn't it so good?" I'm like, "This is terrible." She goes, "Read the book, and you read the book. It's so much better." I got to chapter 8, and I put it down. And I looked at her, and I said, "This book's fucking terrible."
You read the book? Oh,
I read the first 8 chapters, and I said, "It's worse than the movie."
I didn't say the franchise. I like number 1
terrible.
And number 2. When Jacob came in number 2.
Barf.
Okay, let's jump into real vampire movies. Number 3. Old vampire, probably surviving off of children's like plasma, Tom Cruise. Interview with a Vampire. I've got my number 3 spot.
Nice.
Tom Cruise, Brad Pitt. It's got that Victorian era Dracula kind of vibes. I don't know why I think that movie's fun and awesome. I really like it as a vampire movie. Interview with a Vampire, number 3. Number 2, I have got Bram Stoker's Dracula by Francis Ford Coppola. That's my number 2, because I feel like that movie is like the most iconic, quintessential, like Dracula / vampire movie. It's such a good movie. I have not read the book. You have, so you probably have some more hate for it than I do. But for me, when I think of like, what is the story of Dracula? I think of that Francis Ford Coppola's movie.
I don't have hate for that movie. There are some casting choices that I didn't care for. Keanu Reeves isn't good in that movie, and I love Keanu Reeves. He's not good in that movie. I didn't like Winona Ryder either.
What about Anthony Hopkins?
Killed it. Fucking awesome as Van Helsing. And Gary Oldman's the GOAT, man.
So good.
So good. Playing old creepy Dracula, playing the Bat, playing young stud mustache Dracula. Like, dude.
Yeah, dude.
Go.
Gary Oldman's the man.
And he wasn't huge then either. It was like, who? Because he'd done a bunch of he's been in a bunch of stuff, but not super famous. Like, I think at that point, his biggest role was like The Professional.
Yeah.
And
even like in The Fifth Element, I don't think he was like, like, oh my God, Gary Oldman. It was just like, who's this fucking perfect villain guy?
He's so good as a bad guy.
And then turned out to be like the best James Gordon ever. Who would have thought?
Right.
Number 2, Bram Stoker's Dracula by Francis Ford Coppola. And then number 1, this movie is head and shoulders the coolest Dracula movie ever. What We Do in the Shadows is just one of the coolest movie concepts ever. It's hilarious, and it gives you multiple different kinds of very popular, famous franchise vampires in it. One of which, in the first couple episodes,
is the old style vampire with a Y. The Nosferatu.
Yes, old Nosferatu is one of the roommates. It's a movie about vampire roommates filmed office style and how they would get along in the modern world. It is hilarious. It's wild and zany. And it's so good they made a even cooler kick-ass TV show for it. So What We Do in the Shadows is my number 1 vampire movie.
Yep.
Let's go. Bring it on. What you got?
A few similarities, not a lot, so surprising, but couple honorable mentions. I had to throw it in there because it's a classic, the 1931 Universal Dracula with Bela Lugosi. And again, it's not based on the book; it's based on the play. So there's a lot of stuff that's left out in that movie. It's like he's already kind of in London, kind of deal. It's a little different, but it's a classic. Like when somebody says Dracula, you get Bela Lugosi is like what you see, right? The widow's peak and the cloak and the medallion. Like that's the classic vampire look. So you got to give it a shout out. Another honorable mention, 30 Days a Night. Just like you said, cool concept. I'm a big fan of cool concepts. It's a fun movie. It's very enjoyable too. And then I don't remember if you and I had this conversation. I have to mention the movie, even though the movie's not good, is Dracula 2000. Did you and I have the conversation?
Yeah, we've talked about it.
I can't remember if we talked about it on the pod or not. But Dracula 2000 is not a good movie, but you get Christopher Plummer as Van Helsing. You've got Gerard Butler as Dracula in like year 2000 New Orleans. And the thing that I like about it, and even most of the reviews were like, this movie's not good, but what a cool concept, was Dracula was cursed by God because he was Judas Iscariot, and he's the one that betrayed Jesus. And so his curse was that he had to become a member of the undead, and he became Count Dracula, which I thought was like the coolest fucking thing ever. I still do. And the movie's
talked. I don't remember.
The movie's not good, but
we talked about it on the pod.
Movie's not good, but I got to give a shout out because I still think that's the coolest freaking story. All right.
I love that. I love it.
My number 5, Bram Stoker's Dracula, Francis Ford Coppola. All the things you said, there's a lot of great things about that movie. It's super cool. I had a lot of problems with that movie as well. Like, it's okay. It's good. It's not great to me. So I have that as my number 5.
Okay.
And number 4, I did a 3-way tie. I did Nosferatu, Nosferatu, and Nosferatu. There
Oh,
are
nice.
1922, 1979, and 2024. They're all classics in their own right. They all have their very own unique style, cool monster design, cool story, and they're all very highly regarded, right?
Yeah.
And like the 1979, that was Werner Herzog did that, which is crazy to think about.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're all classics in their own right, so I put them as a tie. I have another tie at number 3. I did Blade and Blade 2. I wanted to put Blade on here, and I wanted to put both 1 and 2 because I think they're just as good. We've had this conversation. I think 2 slightly better, but they're both great movies, tons of fun. So I had Blade and Blade 2 again. We've talked about them a ton, but super cool. I had those at number 3.
Correct answer. That number 2 is a little bit better, but they're both.
I think when we rated them, it was like I did like 9 and 8.5 or 8.5 and 8, something like that.
Yeah.
At number 2, biggest difference from anything that you've talked about is I had another tie. I had Let Me In, the Swedish vampire movie, and its American remake, Let the Right One In, which are, if you've never seen either one, they're both fantastic.
I've seen the Let the Right One In
with Chloe Grace Moretz.
Yes.
Yes.
Yep.
Awesome movie. Like they're both very. I mean, they were made very close together. It was like this tremendous Swedish movie, and like we're gonna do an American remake right away, and they did a great job. It's not quite as good. Basically, it's like this kid. He's kind of an outcast. He befriends this girl. Turns out she's a vampire, and it's totally not your typical vampire movie, but it's still terrifying and heartbreaking at the same time. And great movies if you've never seen them.
Yeah, it's like effed up.
They're so good though. Like they're good movies. It doesn't matter if they're about vampires. They're really good movies.
For sure.
And then number 1's What We Do in the Shadows. There's no doubt about it. Like when it comes to vampire movies, it's the GOAT. I think we've talked about it on this podcast multiple times. It's one of those movies that like I stumbled across and I watched it and was like, I need to watch this again. It's so freaking good. I laughed my ass off. It's great.
Yes.
Like,
that's how I found it too. Stumbled upon it on one day streaming.
I think I got it at a Redbox, man. Like I was like, "What's this? Looks good. It's $1." Okay,
that's awesome.
What We Do in the Shadows. Again, if you haven't seen it, please see it, and then you can watch the show afterwards because it's all connected.
That is one of my like top movies that I recommend to friends. Like and most of them have never seen it because I had never heard of it. Stumbled upon it like looking through movies on like Hulu or something one night and was like, what is this? I'm gonna watch it.
You were right though. We could have done like a top 10 vampire movies. There's some really good vampire movies out there. There's also some really shitty ones, but there's some good ones.
There is a ton of shitty ones out there. I almost put the freaking Disney vampire, like My Stepdad's a Vampire or whatever. I don't know if you ever saw it, but
no,
there's a Disney movie that
there's a Nicolas Cage movie from like the late 80s or something, like Vampire's Kiss or something. Jim Carrey's in a vampire movie from like before he got famous. That's actually pretty good. Called like Once Bitten. There's a ton of them. It's a big genre, which is funny to me because I don't know. Do you follow like IGN on social media?
Yeah.
They posted no less than like 30 times in a 2-day span an article about how nobody's made a good Dracula movie yet. And they're right, but they did post this thing like 30 freaking times. Like, I don't know what they were trying to get across.
There's no good Dracula movie.
I really would like to see somebody take another stab at Dracula and get it right. I think I obviously can't do it like in the next couple of years because we just got this, but it needs to be done. I think we need like a real honest to goodness Dracula movie soon because I think there's enough talent out there that can do it. Anyway,
I think Skarsgård could have played like a normal, charismatic Dracula and 100%. Still fucking crushed it. So
you could just cast him as Dracula right now, and it'd be worth it. He'd be great. You don't have to put on as much makeup.
He could be a totally different character. Like people would never even know because you would, if you watched that movie and didn't know Skarsgård was in it, you would never know that he was in it.
No, and that's how good he is. Anyway, great list. Like your list. Lots of cool vampire movies. So we're going to do another round of How Rotten Is Your Tomato?
Bring it on.
I've got the list this week. We've got 5 pairings. Let's see how Kyle does. We're sticking with the theme here.
Bring it on.
Get ready to get your mustache roast? I don't know.
Roast?
Anyway, okay. Oh, yeah. Perfect.
That was awesome.
All right. Our first pairing. Some old-timey classics. Are you ready?
Here we go.
1931's Dracula with Bela Lugosi versus 1922's original Nosferatu.
That's great. Well, I'll put Nosferatu above, even though I know technically they were supposed to destroy every copy because they did not have the rights, and it was like supposed to not be looked at and regarded as a movie. But I think because of that, it's regarded as one of the greatest movies of all time. I think some people will say.
Silent
at least
movies,
that's what I've been seeing a lot.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm gonna put Nosferatu higher.
Okay.
I'm gonna put Dracula at like a 70. No, because it was way back then, so they probably thought it was amazing. I'm gonna put it at an 83 and Nosferatu at an 85.
Okay, so Nosferatu is higher.
Okay, let's
at
go.
a 97.
Holy shit! Why did I just said it was regarded as one of the greatest movies of all time? Why would I not put it in the 90s?
Universal's 1931 Dracula is a 94.
Holy shit!
Yeah, I'm telling you, man.
Wow.
Well regarded.
Wow. Did not realize that.
Okay.
Right, what do we got next?
All right, here we go. Comic book vampires.
Ooh.
1998's Blade.
Ooh, nice.
Versus 2007's 30 Days of Night.
Oh. Man, Blade I would hope is way higher. But I do remember when 30 Days of Night came out, people were like, holy shit, this movie is, you got to see this. And if maybe, I feel like Blade was like a cult hit. No, it was big. Like Blade was huge. I was in junior high, so maybe it was just huge for my little world. But I'm going to have Blade higher. I think Blade should be higher. Something tells me 30 Days of Night will be higher. Blade should be higher at an 84, 75, 80.
Blade was cool, man. Blade was cool. Doesn't mean critics liked it.
That's what I was kind of figured. So, okay, I'm going to say Blade is an 80, and 30 Days of Night, I'm going to say is an 83. I'm going to have 30 Days of Night higher.
Blade is higher.
Oh, rightfully so. Here.
At a 56.
What? Oh, no.
30 Days of Night was a 50.
Oh, Kyle, you're so dumb. Of course 30 Days of Night was low. Why would I think that was high? I'm giving him too much credit here. Okay, I missed that by a lot. Okay. Bring it on.
Here we go. Okay, we got a couple of bottom dwellers. Are you ready? Dracula Untold.
I love that. Well, I wanted it to be better, but I really liked that movie.
Versus 2000's Dracula 2000.
Oh. I think, well, I really thought they were going to make a whole movie monster franchise with Dracula.
They were until it was terrible.
Until it was not well received. They did some really stupid things with it.
Like made it PG-13 was their first mistake.
Yeah. I'm going to say Dracula 2000 is lower and Dracula Untold is higher. At Dracula Untold, I'm going to give a 47. And Dracula 2000 is going to be a 40.
Okay, remember when I said bottom dwellers?
Oh, okay, shit. Way down. Well, maybe I've got my higher lowers right.
Dracula Untold is higher at 26.
Oh, God.
Dracula 2000 is a 19.
Oh, my God.
That's
okay. All right. Bring on the next one. All right.
Here we go.
Wow, I was way over.
What We Do in the Shadows.
Oh, don't you.
Versus 2008's Let the Right One In.
Oh, I thought you were going to say Twilight. It's like,
No, God, no.
Here we go.
I could have put that against Dracula Untold.
I have no idea what critics thought of What We Do in the Shadows, but I know like on every list I saw, freaking Let the Right One In was like within the top 5. I'm gonna say Let the Right One In is higher from the critics. What We Do in the Shadows should be higher, and it should be an 85. Let the Right One In, I'm gonna say, is an 86.
You're going to be happy. Are you ready? Let the Right One In is higher at 98.
Holy shit.
It's a hell of a movie, man.
Holy shit.
And What We Do in the Shadows is a 96.
Oh, well deserved. Well deserved.
All right. Last one.
Love that. Bring it on.
Robert Eggers. Here we go. Are you ready?
Ooh.
2016's The Witch.
Oh, such a good
versus 2022's The Northman.
Oh, I knew you were going to do that when you said The Witch. Man, well, personally, I think The Northman is the better movie in terms of I would want to watch it more because I do. The Witch was so uncomfortable that my wife made us sleep with the lights on when we got home. We had just had our baby, like I think Grayson was maybe like a couple of weeks old. I took her to that movie. She had no idea that a baby gets schmilled in the first like 5 minutes. And so she literally cried and was pissed at me within 5 seconds of that movie starting for the rest of the night. As we were on our way to Nosferatu, I was like, "Are you actually excited for this movie?" She's like, "Well, I'm kind of. What's it about, or who made it? Does any kids die in it?" And I was like, "Well, actually, it's made by the same guy who made The Witch that you cried." So she kind of gave me that look and was like, "Did you even look?" And I was like, "Oh my God, do I really have to do this every time?" I looked it up. Do kids die in this movie? I was like, "Oh God, just baby, just close your eyes and cover your ears." So, like, Robert Eggers is 2 for 2 of getting me in trouble with my wife. But I think The Witch is going to be higher rated because people were like affected by that. I'm going to give The Witch higher with a 94 and The Northman with a 91. I feel like the Northman wasn't really well. I mean, a 90 is obviously well received, but it wasn't as cool as people thought it was going to be.
Okay, so you said Northman was a what?
Northman I had as a 91. Okay. And I've got The Witch as a 94.
All right. The Northman was lower.
I fucking knew.
At 90. So you were close. You're so close. There. That's why I asked you to say it again, because I thought you were leaning towards 90. The Witch was a 91.
Oh, shit. Okay.
Yeah, they were close.
So they're close. Nice.
Oh, yeah. Right. Nice. You did good. You did good this week. Did you get them all?
Usually I can see where you're trying to throw me off, but I still go my route.
You went 4 for 5. You're good.
Like I said, usually I see where you're going with it, but I'm like, I know you're trying to piss me off. I'm going to say the movie that I think should be higher anyways, even though I know it's probably not. And
this week I was curveballs. Got to raise some curveballs.
Like, I'm not falling for it this week. I'm just going to say, well, I think you're just trying to piss me off, so that's got to be higher.
Do what I can.
Not purposely. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know. Try to get y'all right.
Anyways, I love that. It was great. Those are fun movies to talk about. I've loved this movie that we watched this week.
Yeah, good.
Ton of fun.
Good stuff to talk about. Good conversations. Lots of stuff about mustaches and that kind of stuff. Can't do enough.
Oh my God.
All the reels and TikToks and shit are hilarious. Anyway, that brings us to the end of episode 71 of the Movie Dance podcast. If you're watching us on YouTube, please click the like and subscribe. Make sure you click the bell so you get notifications when new episodes come out. If you're not watching us on YouTube, you can find us on one of many podcast networks such as Spotify, Apple, Audible, iHeartRadio, among many others. You can also see some of our short clips and videos on social media at Movie Dance Pod on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. We're back next week for episode 72 with an I Can't Believe You Haven't Seen It, a movie we talked about many, many moons ago that I still haven't seen that Kyle said I need to. So we're going to watch the 2008 Neil Marshall written and directed science fiction action film Doomsday.
Oh, it's so cool. It's so cool.
It's funny because I actually really like Neil Marshall. I can't believe I've never seen this because.
What other movies does he do?
So he did Centurion, which I don't know if you ever saw that. But the movie that he did that I absolutely love is The Descent.
Oh yeah,
with the gals in the cave and the with the Nosferatus in the cave. And then he did the Hellboy remake with David Harbour, which whatever.
Oh, okay.
He did
that too.
That. And then he also did a movie. His first movie was a horror movie called Dog Soldiers. Did you ever see that? Low budget. Basically, it's like a group of soldiers that are like stranded in this house and they're surrounded by werewolves. It's wild. It's pretty good, actually. For low budget, like first horror movie, it's actually really good. And that's what got him the job to do The Descent.
Okay.
So anyway, and then he's since then, I don't see what else has he done since then.
Doomsday is fucking awesome. If you like Mad Max and Underworld, it's like a combination of the two of those. So
yeah, but he's done some TV directing kind of mainly lately. Like he did some Game of Thrones, Black Sails. He did.
I love that show. Have you seen Black Sails?
I haven't. He did some Constantine episodes. The Matt Ryan Constantine. Did you ever watch that when it was on?
No.
He was so good. He is Constantine. Like
they used him in multiple
in like the DC. Yeah, he is like Hellblazer. So he did some Hannibal episodes. He did Lost World or Westworld.
Man.
So yeah, he's kind of done
a lot.
He has. So that's kind of what he's been doing. He has done some movies lately, not a lot of stuff that I've seen. He did have one come out in 2022 called The Lair, which I never watched that I kind of wanted to. So I'll have to check that out. But I'm excited to watch Doomsday next week. Nice. That'll be a good popcorny, like, yeah.
Yeah, we can talk about old Mario again. Coming back to freaking Mr. Roger Rabbit is back. He's in that movie.
What are you talking about?
The guy who plays Mario and is the detective in Roger Rabbit.
Bob Hoskins is in Doomsday?
Bob Hoskins is in Doomsday.
Bob Hoskins is awesome.
I think it might have been his last movie, actually.
What was I watching? I was watching something the other day, and a trailer. It was a movie, like a DVD in the trailer before the movie played. And it was, do you remember the Unleashed with Jet Li?
Yeah.
The dog collar, and Bob Hoskins was like the mob boss that had him.
Yes.
And I was like, oh, Bob Hoskins, a fucking gangster.
Dude, he's awesome. You're gonna you'll like him in Doomsday. He's not in it a lot, but he's in it. He's cool.
He dies then.
No.
Oh, okay.
Not true.
Anyway, I'm excited for that. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching, everybody. We'll see you next time.
Bye.